Welcome back to Digital Bodies. This is the tutorial that supports the first assignment. And in this assignment, what we're asking you to do is to simply trace some gestures using your body, using the controller. And I want to show you a couple of ways to do this. Well, I want to show you what we'd like you to do, as well as a couple of ways to document these things. You've probably played a little bit with the interface and played a little bit within Gravity Sketch at this point. What we're asking you to do is to use the stroke tool as a means of beginning to trace. And if you click on this twice, you can get a couple of different options. Here you can control the size. You can control whether or not this is symmetrical, in other words, a sphere, whether it becomes more flat. We can get back to that by using your left thumb on the purple button. And for this instance, mainly what we're looking for you to do is to use a spherical drawing implement and a relatively small one, because what we want to do is to basically just understand this as a curve in space, as a way of building up some densities of lines. So within this, we can have end caps. We don't want them to be planar. We don't want there to be symmetry, and we can leave everything else alone. We're looking to do the mixed input mode, which allows you to use your right trigger finger to be drawing. And so a couple of tips on this. One is that as we look at how you begin to draw, what you may want to do is to set a kind of reference line, something that you might inhabit. You may also want to begin to set something that's straight out from you, straight off to the side. And so that if you come back to this, and here I'm just navigating using my left middle finger, and I might be able to come back to this moment and feel like I can then also occupy the same type of space. And so what I'm doing now is beginning to trace a set of lines or a set of curves using just my arm out to the side and just rotating my elbow. Maybe I'll rotate in a different direction. I can rotate down. And I can also begin to move or rotate or stand up, sit down. But what we're looking for you to do is to begin to define a space based on your reach. And this will, over time, and the way that you begin to articulate this is to define a volume. Right? And so now I'm moving around this. I can scale in and out, and I can move this off to the side. That might be a very initial tracing. What I could do then is to come back and again, try and occupy this space. Right? By putting my arm out in front, I realized that this was where I was before. And so to scale it, I might scale this up slightly. Again, occupy the same space. Scale it up a little bit more. And just be able to get some type of registration now if I want to come back and begin to add to this. All right, and I'm using my chest where my arm, my shoulder is out, my elbow is bent and the hand controller is back at my chest. And so I could also bang my head like that. I could draw a line out from the top of my head. I could draw a line down on my chest up to my chin so that I can reference those things later. Right? So now we have a rough representation of this. And maybe what I could do is, so as we talk about documentation, I can move this one off, or I'm moving off to the side. I could do another version here. All right, and just use this as a kind of frame of reference. And then now you can see as I move, I'm moving in relationship to these. So if I want to select all of this, I'm using my right thumb controller forward and back to increase the size of the selection area. And I can move this and so I can move these around and then locate them in space. And I might want to scale this one up a little bit. So maybe I'll locate it in space first, and then increase the scale. So one means of beginning to represent these is to put them side by side. We're asking you to document them individually. And so there's 2 or 3 ways that we're going to look at doing that. First is by taking a screenshot. And we find this by using your left thumb on the blue button, and then the top option under Save, all the way in the top right, is to take a screenshot. So when we click on this, this gives us a camera in our left hand. We can change the lens. We can change the depth of field. We can turn this square. We can turn the background to be transparent. And we can show our hand controllers or not with the user interface. So we can set up views. We can even turn our camera. And as we click with our left trigger finger, index finger, this will save a screenshot for us. And we can move around. And we can take pictures of this. It delays for a second as it saves. And so that's one option. The other option is using, again, your left thumb on the blue button. Oh, apparently that saves it. What we want to do is go to close this tool. And then using your left blue button, we can also save the geometry. And here we can see I can save it on local, or I can save it on the cloud. And if we want to save our sketch, we can do one of 2 things. We can save it, which is Gravity Sketch. So I can go ahead and do this. I'm just using my right trigger finger to do that. And here I can name it just by tapping on it with my right controller, selecting it. We can also export this, and we'll be doing much more with this in terms of exporting, and we'll use IGES files. IGES files will give us NURB curves for all of these things, and we can export that. Name it something so that you can then search for it on your computer to see where it's been saved. But we can save an IGES file, and that's okay. And the other thing that you can do is that we're asking you in some instances to create video, And so in the same way that I'm creating this tutorial, what I did is I started a Zoom session. I'm broadcasting and recording my Zoom session on my laptop. And so as I navigate this space, this is being recorded to an MP4 file. And so in some instances, you may want to share something with your faculty member, and you may even be able to say, do something like, let's note something, and we can change the color using the color wheel on our right thumb. And as we hold that down, we could change the color. And so now if I were to draw something, I might say, I have a question about something that's happening right here, right? Or I'm not sure why this happened, right? Maybe those are a little large, so I can make, using my right thumb, left and right, I can make this smaller and smaller. Okay, I have a question about something that's happening here. We can mark these three-dimensionally. And maybe I have a question about this. Right, so we can come back and we can talk about these things. So in this case, I'm doing that because I might want to send a video, or I may want to take a screenshot and send that to someone and get their feedback on it when we don't have time to both get into a Gravity Sketch co-authored session. So hopefully this helps. We've gone over really basic use of the stroke tool. We'll talk about that during class in terms of different drawing techniques as we think about that. You've got a couple of approaches to, or a couple of ways that we've worked within Gravity Sketch to export those things, both in terms of using images to do it, and we will export the IGES file, and we can talk about ways to use that in a workflow to take the geometry from Rhino and into Illustrator so we can actually work with these specific lines. So let me know if you have any questions. I can always do follow-up tutorials to help explain some of these things if it's not clear. All right, thanks for paying attention. I look forward to seeing what you come up with.